This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. And I just found out that StreamYard has this feature, so you tell me if you can hear this. They let you have background music now. I didn't know you could do this. I didn't scroll far enough down on the menu to realize that you could do this now. They determine what background music you can have, so I only have a few options. But if you can hear that, well, at least there'll be something, not just, silence behind me the entire time that I'm doing this. Anyway, good morning. This is going to be a Ask Me Anything J-Random stream because, truth be told, I couldn't find anything that really interested me to do a stream on specifically, like a video or an article or something. Every time I looked up the usual suspects, I just thought to myself, yeah, but I've done that recently, and I've done that recently, and I've done that recently too. And I suppose, really, everything that I usually do, I have usually done in some way, shape, or form. I kind of tell myself, I'm looking at these subjects often from different sources, different institutions, different people. So it's always something different. I try to tell myself, you never know what they're going to say next. What's the latest spin on this particular subject, or how much of this subject will I already be able to inform either myself or someone else on, since I've gone over these subjects so many times. Yeah, but this week, nothing really out of the ordinary jumped out at me. And maybe that's part of the problem now. It's so mundane, right? Seeing a DEI initiative or some restorative justice pitch, or I don't even know. There's so many different things. And nothing seems like it's out of the ordinary. It seems like old hat. I kind of said this last week with the University of Wisconsin deal, where they start off the presentation telling us that they spent $50,000 on the information effectively that they're going to present to us in that video. And over the course of the video, save for a odd admission here and there, nothing that they put up there was anything that I hadn't already seen, read, or talked about dozens of times previously, just via videos that you can find on the internet for free. So it's kind of funny they spent $50,000 on something they could have just, done some cribbed some notes from a bunch of YouTube videos, or even just my streams, and saved themselves a bunch of time and energy. Anyway, all that being said in a ramble, here we are, raucous like a hurricane. Who's joining me this morning for whatever we end up doing? Kiever Dam, John Kelly, Funtime Bats, Noah Asensio. Who else is here? Brittany Holland, Tall Person, Mike R, Non-Vitae Rex, Some Nom Nation, Simon Willikins, and that's all I see at present. If you're out there, or if you're lurking, good morning. Hope you're all doing well on this Sunday morning. For those of you that have a 3-day weekend, well, welcome to the middle of your 3-day weekend. Just as a programming note, and I'll mention this before the end of the stream as well, tomorrow, Monday, July 4th, at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. in Scotland, I'll be having a discussion/conversation with my friend, Tailed Feature, on the subject of independence. It could go any different kinds of directions, but it was initially inspired by the fact that it's Independence Day here in the United States, and as well, Scottish independence. The possibility thereof is once again rearing its bagpiped head over in Scotland. And so I thought it might be interesting to discuss the concept, the notions about independence, nationally or otherwise, with someone who lives in a different situation than myself. And so that'll be happening tomorrow, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Scotland time, on this channel. So with that all being said, so this is a Ask Me Anything stream, talk about whatever comes to mind. I got some thoughts on Stranger Things. I've got some thoughts on Marvel revelations in the last 24 hours or so about different characters and potential movies coming up, all types of stuff. So whatever comes to mind, whatever comes up. But I also have, just in case there's any blank spaces, a random topic generator. So I'll engage that. So I'll generate random topic. What food looks disgusting but tastes delicious? What food looks disgusting but tastes delicious? I don't know. I mean, most of the time, the food that I think looks disgusting actually is disgusting. I went to this, what was it, a Korean barbecue one time. And plenty of Korean barbecue is fine, but they put out like this sampler platter. And there was this one side dish thing that honestly looked like it was like the legs of spiders just in a little pile. And I didn't know what it was. I guess it was some kind of cabbage or something, but it just looked repellent. And I took one tiny little bite. It was like, ugh, no. So I don't know if that's an answer to the question, but it's a question to the answer. Either way, let's go over to the chat and Random American. So it was you who stole my topic generator. Yes, it was I, Master Thief. Took it from you. Let's see. Nope. Simon Willikins. This is only going for an hour and a half or 2 hours, right? At most. You know, I don't plan on going so long that it's one of those things. A rule for life, if you don't know. Leave when they still want you to stick around. That is the visitor's mantra, or the guest's mantra. You know, leave while they still want you to stay. That's the best way to leave the best impression and not get it on anybody's nerves if you can help it. So it's now you have to sort of be able to, you know, test those waters mentally and watch everybody's sort of body language and such. But yeah, that's how the best guests operate. Let's see. Keeverdam, Scribelight, have you been watching the January 6th hearings? No, I have not. I couldn't care less unless or until they actually filed indictments. Otherwise, I can just imagine it's effectively the same thing mechanically as Russiagate was. A whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of maybe slightly criminal things or untoward things or things that Donald Trump did that were either impolite or outrageous and so on and so forth. And oh my God, Donald Trump's the most terrible thing in the world. And then at the end of it, I'll just go, and yeah, like I say, if there was, and I'm not a lawyer, I don't know obviously all the facts about it all and everything else, but they have investigated and prosecuted everyone and everything that even thought about attending that rally/riot that day. If there was something to indict anybody higher up on the chain of command about this yet, I think they would have done it by now. If they do, okay. If they've got the grounding for it, by all means. But they already impeached the guy twice, and they couldn't even prove, with all of the information they had at the time, incitement, which admittedly has a very complicated legal bar you have to jump to prove. But, yeah, so anyway, short answer, no, I haven't been watching. Long answer, I'm not really interested in wasting my time on it unless or until there's a showing of fact that leads up to actual criminal indictments of some sort or another. Otherwise, it's all just it all just feels like dog and pony show stuff, mainly to try to save the Democrats from losing too many seats in the upcoming midterms. That's about it. And with Roe v. Wade, they might have saved themselves some more seats. It's possible, but that's a whole other conversation. Let's see. Mike R. Scribelight, you never responded to my second question on Twitter. Okay, well, here's a rule of manners for a chat thing. If you think I don't know something that you've said on another platform, I'm not going to know it here. So, so repeat your question here. That I don't know what to say to that. Like I you know what? I will assume I did not. So I suppose I didn't. What was your second question? Let's see. What's the next random topic generator? What is something you are obsessed with? Oh boy, what am I? Something obsessed with? Oh, this is a family channel. What can I talk about here? I'm obsessed with coming up with an idea or a subject or some kind of extracurricular activity that will keep my imagination going and inspire me to create stuff, whether it's writing or making a video or whatever. I've kind of been that way for many, many, many years, but I'm obsessed with finding my next passion, I suppose. That's one way of putting it. Thank you, Pecoraro, the Driving Ape Man. Hello from the lakeside. Well, hello from the computer room. I don't think I'm anywhere near a lake, so I guess I'm tree side. There's some trees outside. Yeah, there you go. That's where I'm from. Thank you, Pinkalo. Hope you and Blind Press are doing well. I've been seeing her posting more little videos of her daily adventures. Good stuff. Kieverdam Scribes is a Ted head who loves redheads. Oh, ho, ho. Ho, ho. We got a Wadsworth over here. Or Wordsworth? Wadsworth? No, Wadsworth is somebody completely different. Never mind Wadsworth. That's Clue. That's Tim Curry. Let's see. Some menus in cinema. I mean, I have a lot of cinema love and trivia jammed up in my head. Am I obsessed with it? Probably not as much now as I was when I was a teenager. Because, man, I was watching movies left, right, and center when I was a teenager. I just consumed so many movies. Video store was like my second home. Oh, man. It's kind of crazy I didn't end up in, like, film school or something. Let's see. Kanto Hair. When is Kerp coming on? You know, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things like I just feel the guy is constantly busy. I mean, he's always on tour and such. And it's one of those things where, you know, the experience of social media has brought the idea of celebrity and the sort of untouchable, unknowable notion of famous people or celebrities it's kind of diluted that to where, you know, obviously not that they never weren't in the first place, but it's definitely rehumanized the idea of celebrity. But at the same time, the guy's a working man. He is all over the place. He's moving from hotel to hotel and everything else. And I feel kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'd be almost intruding, you know, or what's the word I'm looking for? Putting upon. That's a phrase people still use, just to say, hey, you want to do a TEDx? I mean, there are a couple of TEDx's out there where the subject is stand-up comedy of one form or another, and it'd be really interesting to have him on to do one or two of those. So the idea is there. It's just I'm always hesitant to bug the guy. You know, it's just I don't know. It's one of those weird things. It's like I'm very grateful that he happened upon me in the first place, and that he's had me on as like a fill-in guest a couple of times now, which is, I mean, it's really flattering. You know, not to put too fine a point on it, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I come across something that says this screams Kurt Metzger. I'll let him know, and I'll say, hey, you want to come on and talk about this one? Because there are a couple out there. Piccolo, thank you again. She says, thank you. Scribble, she is here too. Hi, Blind. Hello. Scrappy, I'm obsessed with hitting the target. Doesn't matter what my target is. Could be only having to move all of the living room furniture. That is something that I, you know, since I was a kid, have had to struggle with. It's sort of like, there's something I know I need to do, and I just need to get up and do it. Right? Don't think about it. Don't stress over it. Just it's going to take you 10 minutes versus something here where you're fret about it for 20. Just get up, get it done, get it over with. There's so much you can feel so much more productive if you just get up in the morning and just say, okay, setting aside all the nonsense, just do task, get done. Do task, get done. I should do that more often, but then I'm kind of lazy. So what do I know? Let's see. What's next? What are the best and worst things about the marketplace where you get your apps? Well, I don't have a smartphone, and I don't really deal with apps all that much. So I guess the answer is no. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I don't. For those of you that don't know, I don't own a smartphone, much to the chagrin of people around me. I have a dumb phone. It's not a flip phone. It is a flat phone, but it's not a smartphone. There's a certain even though it is inevitably unavoidable. There's a certain amount of dependence on gadgets and having everything at my fingertips that I try to avoid. There's something lost, I think, in not having to go seeking out information, right? The Dewey Decimal System, going to the library, looking something up, the process of research, the process of having to solve your own problem and not have an app that you click a button, everything's done for you. I mean, it is very convenient, don't get me wrong, and I can't deny the utility of it all at times. But I don't know, there's some sort of little Luddite part of my brain that says, wait until you absolutely have to have it. And so far, I haven't absolutely had to have a smartphone. I'm sure the day will come, but thus far, I've avoided it. So there you go. Let's see. Random American Scribe doesn't want to make an app of himself. Let's see. I think that deserves at least one of these. There you go. I have a few stingers. Not too many, but a few. Let's see. What else do we got? Oh, so something that I saw on Twitter, which is, of course, the greatest place for all information that is obviously accurate. There is a rumor. So I can't say this is a spoiler alert, but it's possible. But there's a rumor that Marvel, when they introduce Doctor Doom into the MCU, he is tangentially going to have something to do with their new version of Namor the Submariner, who is now not an Atlantean, apparently, but an Aztec or a Mayan or something. I don't know. But that Doctor Doom will, his ancestry will have somehow clashed with whatever version of Namor and his people are now. But that Doctor Doom will no longer come from a sort of Eastern European Latveria country, but instead some kind of Mediterranean setup. And I'm just like, why? What's wrong with Eastern Europe? What's wrong with just sticking to the comic books, for crying out loud? The whole Namor thing, I have to assume they're not making him the king of Atlantis because they don't want to be too similar to what's going on in DC. Except that DC and Marvel have such... You cannot avoid the similarities in characters and power sets and everything else. Just stick to the comics. They're there. They're classic. They're already written for you. I mean, heck, there are like decades worth of films that have already been plotted out for you in these comic books and storyboarded and everything. And yet they keep saying, oh, we got to change it up. We got to be like, no. I don't understand the mindset that's like, it's one of those things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Marvel more and more in the last couple of cycles now is like, oh, we can improve on this. We can make it more acceptable. We can make it more diverse, whatever the heck else. Yeah, because, Atlantean isn't diverse, right? I mean, Doctor Strange, if you look at Doctor Strange, the original rendering of the character, he was Asian. Doctor Strange was like an Asian guy. But whatever. Anyway, so yeah, they're going to turn Doctor Doom into a Mediterranean. And purportedly Javier Bardem is going to play Doctor Doom. I don't think he'd do a bad Doctor Doom, necessarily. I think there are probably other actors I'd rather see as Doctor Doom. I think Mads Mikkelsen would have made a great Doctor Doom. I felt like I was robbed because Mads Mikkelsen being Doctor Doom was an idea for years and years and years. When he ended up as whatever the heck his name was in Doctor Strange. This is what tells you when a character is sort of underutilized and not that impressive when you can't even remember their name. The villain in the first Doctor Strange movie, Sisbembo or Calabrembo or whatever his name was. Yeah, he was wasted. Mads Mikkelsen. I remember Mads Mikkelsen. I saw him the first time in the first Pusher movie. If you guys don't know about the Pusher series, it's a Danish movie series. Nicholas Winding Refn, however you say his name. It was his first sort of breakout set of movies. The first Pusher movie. Don't watch the British remake from like 2015 or 2016 or something. It was horrible. But you find the original Pusher movie, which was, I believe, Mads Mikkelsen's first real film. That movie, the second, there's 3 movies in the series, and it's so The Pusher and The Pusher 2, Blood on My Hands, and Pusher 3, I Am the Angel of Death. Those movies are great. They're so good. They're brutal. Don't get me wrong, this is not for the faint of heart, but they're great movies. And that first one, oh man, I cannot praise it enough. If you haven't seen those, definitely look out for those. But yeah, they wasted Mads Mikkelsen on that Doctor Strange character. He would have been the best Doctor Doom ever. I mean, especially if they gave him something to work with, because Doctor Doom can be a really, really complex and layered character if you write him correctly. He's not just a cackling, mustache-twirling villain. And so I'm not saying that Javier Bardem can't do a bad job. I'm just saying he wouldn't be my first choice. And if they're going to change him to Mediterranean, so he's not going to be of gypsy ancestry. He's not going to like have his mother wouldn't have been a sorceress who's now stuck in hell and he has to save her. And all Anyway, let's see. What else do we got? What's next? Which do you prefer, books or movies? Either or, as long as they're good and or entertaining. That's about it. Although admittedly, I've probably seen more movies than I have read books, ultimately. Thank you, Non-Vitae Rex. Thoughts on The Last Kingdom Season 5? Oh, man. You know, I was just talking about this with my friend. We watch TV shows together over the internet, if you can believe it. And right now we're watching Vikings, which I hadn't seen before. And we're now in season 4, I think. And the striking thing about The Last Kingdom, if you haven't seen The Last Kingdom on Netflix, highly, highly recommend it. It's great. And here's why. Here's part of the reason why. Aside from the production, which is just amazing, and the acting and the characterization, but the thing about The Last Kingdom is, and this has kind of become a hallmark in my mind as to what great pacing, story structure, and writing is. If I can watch a 45-minute single episode of a show, but in the course of that 45 minutes feel like I've been watching a full-length, feature-length film because of the amount of story relayed, the amount of characterization and memorable moments, if I can like check the time and say, have I only been watching this for 25 minutes? Something like that. I know that I'm engrossed. I know that they're doing something right and keeping my attention. And I felt that way just almost to a one of every episode of The Last Kingdom. And The Last Kingdom Season 5, without going into too much because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, I thought they reached a very satisfying conclusion. I thought the last little dig that Uhtred, son of Uhtred, did to, I'll just say his superior, without giving anything away, was perfect, and said this, and told the audience that even though this is the end of this show, the story obviously does not end here, because not all conflicts have been resolved, not all loose ends have been tied off. The story will go on in perpetuity, and that's what I loved about that last little bit at the end of the last episode of the last season. But overall, like I say, nearly every episode I felt like I was watching a full-length feature film. And that was in stark contrast to, say, the last 2 episodes of Stranger Things, where, like, episode 8 was an hour and a half long. And by the end of it, I felt like there was not a whole lot. It was like cotton candy. It was like, oh, this is sweet, but it's weightless. I felt like so much of that episode in particular was fluff and filler. You could have condensed it down. There's a whole lot of Stranger Things. Well, heck, there's a whole lot about a lot of the binge series where it really feels like, hey, you have to fill up, these 10 episodes with stuff. You can't tell an efficient story, or if you have an efficient story to tell, you are disallowed from doing so. You have to fill up these 10 episodes. I felt that way about most of the Marvel Netflix television shows, where they're contracted to have 13 episodes. But instead of like doing an episodic structure, like, Star Trek The Next Generation used to be, or something like that, where each episode is kind of a self-contained deal, suggesting things in a larger universe, but ultimately being a single story in that episode. They take one storyline and stretch it over 13 episodes, and like they pad it with a bunch of nonsense or repeating dialogue, and so that's kind of what it felt like the last couple episodes of Stranger Things, even though there were some epic moments and some great characterization. I won't say too much about Stranger Things. I don't want to spoil it for everybody. I got spoiled the first day before I had a chance to even watch the episode. People were putting stuff on Twitter like, R.I.P. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's like that scene out of The Simpsons where Homer walks out of the theater after seeing Empire Strikes Back, and in front of all the people waiting in line, he goes, "Wow, I never would have thought Darth Vader was Luke's father." Really, there's some mannerly things to keep in mind, guys. Don't spoil stuff. If you like something in a show, say, "Wow, that show was great." Wait at least 48 hours before you put something out on social media, because even if you put, I mean, it's one thing if you say spoiler alert and then you try to like obscure the thing somehow, which doesn't usually work. But allude to something. Don't say it out, right? Just don't. Just don't. Same thing with people who post videos on YouTube of clips they've already taken down from the episode or something, where the title says, post-credits scene where blah, blah, blah says blah, blah, blah. I hate that. I know it's unavoidable sometimes, and I'd like to be able to avoid it, but man, just, have some consideration for the rest of us. Let's see. Scrappy, movies are easier on my neck than reading, but holy smoke, movies are too slow. It all depends on the movie. I mean, those shows or those movies where it goes by, it takes a long time, but then there are movies with the exact same running time and you feel like it never stopped. You can't believe it's already over. Like an hour and a half has passed. You can't believe it. It really is all down to the writing, the pacing, and how much it engages the audience. Some movies need to be slow, like a slow burn to a crescendo. That could be good. But if you're engaged with it, it can still seem like it's going by quick, but it still feels like you're building to something. There's a equation to that somehow. The people that have solved that equation do really well. But Scrappy also, third season Stranger Things lost me. Yeah, Stranger Things. It always reminded me. It's one of those things where I always thought it would be better if each season was its own deal, like an anthology show. Like Stranger Things Season 1, here's the situation, there you go. Stranger Things Season 2, it's a different story in a different place with a different set of characters that may be existing in the same universe, but are separate and its own thing. Because oftentimes it feels like people who have ideas for new shows, their first idea, their first script, or their first outline is perfect. They've thought about it for a long time. It's strong. It's really well thought out. And then they're expected to make a sequel, a second season, but they don't have enough there. They spent so much time perfecting that first one. There's not much there. You can see this, as far as I'm concerned, with the series Penny Dreadful, right? Like the first season was so strong. And then it felt like by the time they got to the second season, the third season, it just kept getting more and more diluted and more moi, because they come out strong with the first idea, but then they didn't have much to follow it up with, which is unfortunate. So similarly, I've talked about this before. I always thought when it was first premiering, I thought the series 24 was going to be an anthology show, right? I thought 24. The first one is like, countdown to find the bad guys or the explosive or whatever. Okay. And then series 2, 24 would be like a romantic comedy, like 24 Hours Until the Wedding. And you get sort of a father of the bride thing of everything that goes wrong leading up to the wedding. And then 24, series 3, an old Western or something. There's so many things you could do with the concept of a 24-hour countdown. And I thought that would make more sense as an anthology series and not sort of like what they've done with American Horror Story, even though I've only watched one season of American Horror Story and none of the others. But at least they had the right idea. They make a season based around one story. And even if they're going to recycle actors, which I always thought was kind of weird, but whatever. But yeah, 24, Stranger Things, Penny Dreadful, Carnival. Well, now Carnival suffered from the fact that the show was so expensive to make that they forced the guys to wrap up the second season as a final season when they had at least 3 or 4 more seasons worth of story to go through. But man, that first season, holy cats. You want to see something cool. Actually watch Carnival season 1. Don't watch season 2. Just let season 1 sit and simmer in your mind for the rest of your life. It's worth it because season 2 kind of deflates a bunch of things. If anybody even remembers Carnival anymore. Best opening sequence to a show ever. I mean, it's an animated thing. It's amazing. Anyway, I could go on. Let's see. Hair. I couldn't get into Stranger Things. Watched the first 2 episodes and said, I don't get the hype. There's definitely a reliance on nostalgia in a lot of the stuff for people who loved 80s movies and that sort of like Kids on Bikes kind of thing, Goonies and Explorers, and My Science Project, things like that. Yeah, I can see how it's not for everybody. I really liked the first season because, like I said, it was very solidly well put together, kept your interest, the mysteries were there. They didn't know how to really carry it forward in season 2 and 3, it felt like. Season 4 is much better written and a much tighter story overall, generally speaking, than seasons 2 and 3. And they're using season 4 to kind of retroactively fix some of the problems or some of the about season 2 and 3. It's obvious, feels a little ham-handed in places, but I tell you what, the star of season 4, Eddie Munson. Don't say anything else. I don't want to give it all away. But man, Eddie. Anyway, what else do we have? What's the most addictive mobile game you have played? Well, given the fact that I don't have a smartphone, I haven't played any mobile games. Closest I've come to mobile games was when I played a few games on Facebook back in the day. Facebook games that I actually spent money on. I feel kind of ashamed about this. There was one mobile game on Facebook I actually spent real money on once. I gave in once. It was this, I forget what it was called. It was like Marvel. It wasn't Ultimate Alliance, but it was something like that, where you like collected heroes and you fought battles and you went across a map and everything. And they would occasionally release new characters into the mix. And when they released the Punisher, I didn't have enough gold coins or whatever it was for the Punisher, because you can buy them through the currency you can earn just playing the game. But I didn't have enough coins to get the Punisher, and they were saying, "Oh, it's a limited time." Like, oh my god, I want the Punisher. So I put down, what was it, like $5 or $6 or something, and got enough gold coins to purchase the Punisher into my bullpen, and it was great. It was great. Punisher, yeah. I mean, it was a stupid game. It was like just 3 steps higher than a Flash game. But hey, I was enough of a nerd. Brett Ide, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm 33 minutes late. Do you play Magic the Gathering? So yeah, I could decide for that. Thank you so much, Brett. Very, very generous of you as always. I have never played Magic the Gathering. Most people around me played Magic the Gathering or various other collectible card games. The only one that I ever played much of in college was the Decipher, and that's the company name, the Decipher version of the Star Wars collectible card game. That was great. It's still great as far as I'm concerned. My roommates in college, one in particular, was just obsessed with making decks. And so I didn't have to learn how to make decks. It was just like, he's got his Jedi deck and he hands me the Bounty Hunter deck and we play it, and it was great. The only other game that another sort of guilty admission, there's a game that I became obsessed with for a long time, but I never played in real life, and that's Netrunner. And that's the Android Netrunner. I don't know if they've... let's see. there's been two versions. Well, now I guess not three versions of Netrunner. There was the original, which I believe was made by the same guys that did Magic the Gathering, and then Fantasy Flight bought the rights to it and reformed it under their own brand or their own little sci-fi setting called Android, and that's really where it really shone. And you can watch tournaments of this stuff and everything. It's asymmetrical, collectible card game playing. Really cool stuff. And because I was a cyberpunk freak for a while, I became really obsessed with this card game and just watching people play it, learning the rules. But there was nobody, I didn't have anybody to play this game with. But I got so obsessed with it that I started like buying packs and things just to sort of like teach myself how to play. And there's an online version now because the game is now effectively defunct. It's sort of like what do you want to call it? Like open source. It's not, I guess it's not open source, but the game has been shut down. But there's a whole bunch of fans that have kept it going, and they've released their own sort of open source card sets and everything. You can still play this game. There's still cards being released in decks and sets and everything by an independent organization that are keeping the game alive. But yeah, I've got like a stack of cards for the game that I've never actually played with anybody. But just because I was so obsessed with Cyberpunk for a while. Cyberpunk, the setting, not the specific game. That's kind of, you have to make that distinction. So long version, I played some card games. Short version, no. There you go. Or as Dylan Farna points out, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the card game. Yeah, that's... If that's not a thing, that should be a thing. You play MTG? What? It's like, I play a metal detector at the front doors. I'm sure people will get that joke, maybe. Do I own any MTG cards? No, I don't. The closest I've ever come to a Magic the Gathering anything was at the old video store I worked at. This is long, long ago in the dark days of the 90s. Somehow I came across a free screener copy of I think it was the second or third annual Magic the Gathering Championship game. And it was like Showdown in New York or something. And it was the first time, because now I think it's relatively pedestrian, but it was the first time I'd ever seen like a professionally produced with commentary guys talking over a camera facing down on it was like watching like professional poker. And even though I knew nothing about the rules or the cards, just listening to the commentators like get all excited, it's like, oh my god, he pulled out the Sword for Plowshares or something, or what was the other thing, Millstone, or like there are all these cards he put out. And even though I didn't understand the mechanics, I could kind of decipher what they were meant to do at each thing. And they pulled out their monsters and their lands, and they got their mana and everything. And they're really excited. And even though it was just guys, doing cards, and there was no sound to it, but just the commentator guys, I got interested in at least the concept. And then when I went to college and I started playing Star Wars, but yeah, that's the closest I ever came to Magic the Gathering, aside from all the friends around me that were just like nuts about it and collecting the cards and had their sets and had their decks they carried around with them with their special colored sleeves to tell apart which deck was which deck from what. Oh man. Random American, he just ripped his Chaos Orb and dumped it all over the playfield. Oh, and good. Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate that kind of enthusiasm and nerdery over it. But Old Guy Gamer, greetings and salutations, Mr. Scribe. Scribelight, I've never played any mobile games. All are PC-based. Yeah, I play games that you could conceivably obviously play on mobile, but I don't have a smartphone, so I haven't. I actually take that. I have a tablet. I've got like an Amazon Fire tablet, and I think I played some hidden object game or something at some point. That's probably the closest I've come. It's so meaningless, I don't even remember what it was. Let's see. Where do you plan on going for your next vacation? Vacation? What's that? Yeah, well, if I ever do go on a big vacation, I got this great plan. Well, maybe not. It's not nailed down as a plan yet, but I have great intentions to go on a big tour vacation. I want to I want to take a train trip, right? I want to take a train trip. I can't say too much without giving away where I live, but I want to take a train trip to the East Coast, let's say, and then fly from there to, Europe in general, because I have so many friends over in Europe now. I want to go to Scotland and Britain and Amsterdam and Germany and like attempt to maybe visit briefly some of my YouTube friends and things. And hopefully along the way make a stopover in like Ohio and Michigan to see if I can visit Satsu and Monkey. Like whenever that day comes, I hope it's sooner rather than later, but the way that my work schedule is and everything else, long extended vacations just really aren't in the cards for me at present. Let's see what else. What do you do when you hang out with your friends? You're looking at it. I've gotten into kind of a habit after the pandemic and everything, and events before that. This is my hanging out with my friends. Hello, friends. How are you? Bridget, going to visit Drunkle. Like I say, if I make it over to ye olde British Isles, I'll try to meet up with as many people as I can arrange, because it probably won't happen again. There's a lot of people I'd like to hang out with, at least see once, say hi, see how they're doing, and encounter them as something other than just words on a screen or a voice in the darkness, if you know what I mean. Let's see. Old Guy Gamer. I'm going to Georgia, South Carolina to visit family. Dad's today in September. Bought ticket 3 weeks ago. $800. Not tickets are $1,200. I don't know what not tickets is, but I mean, when the time comes, I try to be a little smart with my money. So when the time comes, I could probably be able to swing a decent trip somewhere when the time comes. But it's all a matter of timing. Time. Thank you, Pecoraro, the Driving Ape Man. New game. Is it a chocolate chip or a mouse dropping? That reminds me, as my movie trivia often does, it reminds me of a scene in the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I believe from 1979, thereabouts, or 77, something like that, directed by Philip Kaufman and starring Donald Sutherland. And Leonard Nimoy was in there too. Anyway, and Jeff Goldblum back in one of his earlier roles, even though I think his first role was Death Wish. Anyway, there's a scene in there because Donald Sutherland plays a health inspector, and he goes into a restaurant, and he pulls up this little thing off of a shelf, and he holds it up to the chef, and he says, "This is a rat turd," and the chef is like, "No, it is a caper." He says, "Rat turd, caper." Okay, then you eat it. And the chef is like, Oh, man. See, so some scenes just stick in my mind, and then I'll forget other things. It just, it's so bizarre what sticks and what doesn't. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In kind of a weird way, Invasion of the Body Snatchers was, for me, there's this old conspiracy theory about like the book Catcher in the Rye, right? Catcher in the Rye is connected to a couple of famous crimes, like Chapman, I think, shooting John Lennon, a couple other things, and it was a plot point in the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, where like he was compelled to buy a copy of Catcher in the Rye every time he saw one, and there was. Not quite to the extent that I was like brainwashed into doing it, but there was a brief time where I was so obsessed with sci-fi and classic sci-fi that every time I saw a new edition of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the book, not the movie, as long as it wasn't too expensive, I'd be sort of oddly compelled to buy it. And so I've got like 3 copies of Invasion of the Body Snatchers of different editions with different cover art and everything. The original story by Jack Finney is really good all by itself. I think it was serialized originally, but they turned it into a novel eventually. And the 1956 version of the film with Kevin McCarthy is excellent, except for the fact that I don't know if there is out there, but I wish there was like an original uncut version of the film or unedited, because they bookended the final version, the theatrical version, they bookended with this introduction and outro that gave it kind of a optimistic ending. Because the original version of the movie, it ends with the guy screaming at everybody on the freeway that they're all in danger and that basically, the world's about to be taken over by aliens. And it's supposed to end right there and leave it on a very dour, apocalyptic note. And that would have been perfect. But the studio thought that was too downbeat and decided to add on and tack on these other things. There was a broadcast of the original Body Snatchers on, I think it was TNT or something, and they brought in Kevin McCarthy to narrate these little, in between the commercial breaks, and he'd give these little factoids about the movie and the production and everything. I don't know if you can find that anywhere anymore. I think I have a very, very beat up VHS copy of part of it now somewhere in a closet. It'd be great if that was available. Just those clips. Maybe that's on YouTube or something. But I learned more about probably the production of that movie just watching those clips from him in that broadcast than anything else. But yeah, 56 Invasion of the Body Snatchers is great. 70, again, it was a 77 or 79 or something. 79 version of Body Snatchers is also really good, even if the hairstyles and the clothing make it so dated that it. The 1993 Body Snatchers is not great. It's not great at all. I mean, it's okay, but it's got that sort of. I can't explain it really. I mean, it's okay, but it all takes place on a military base, and it's too dark, literally too dark, too many shadows. Part of the thing about Invasion of the Body Snatchers was that the threat and the terror was right there out in the daylight, right? That was the whole thing. It's it could be your neighbor, it could be your best friend, it could be your husband, your wife, all that stuff. So that part of the fact was you had that encroaching dread, even though it was sunny out. And the 93 Invasion of the it was just called Body Snatchers. There was too much shadow. It made it too much like a horror movie, when the horror really was the unknown or the stranger beside you kind of thing. And then there was, I think it was 2003, maybe something like that. It was just called Invasion. It was Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig before he was James Bond, I believe. And that was just sad. It was just bad. I mean, they kind of just did it. They gender swapped the main character from the original film, but it just didn't work. I keep waiting for the next remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There have been a lot of movies that have been made that have effectively recreated that whole scenario, but not been called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. My fan casting for a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, at least back in the early 2000s, was Bill Pullman as the Doctor, whose name I suddenly forget for some reason, and make it very timeless in the sense that you just focus on the story. Don't make a lot of cultural references. And then the sirens are coming after me now. Oh, shush. This is what happens when you live next to a fire department and a highway patrol office down the way. Anyway, if you make it very timeless and just focusing on the story and not use too much technology or make many references, you can make a really, really good movie. And there's always allusions to it as being oh, this is an allegory for the Red Scare. And then later on, I mean, and then like John Carpenter's The Thing, you can make an allegory for, the AIDS virus or something. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, one of those sort of perfect ideas, and it's only been done well twice as a movie, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, there's my Invasion of the Body Snatchers rant, if you care about that. Scanner Effie, Nicole Kidman is sad. Nicole Kidman is a very good actress when she's given the right material and directed correctly. Sometimes otherwise, this is a thing that I'll always try to remember about actors and acting, is that you can have a really great actor who's given a bad script and no direction, and their performance ends up being garbage. It's not necessarily their fault. I've made this comment before about Christoph Waltz and the comparison between his villain in Inglourious Bastards and his villain in The Green Hornet. It's you have classic cinema villain in one instance, and then you have almost non-memorable appearance in a really bad superhero type show. You can't just hand a great actor a character name and say go and expect to get anything out of them. You have to know what you want. You have to ask for it. You have to demand it. The actor is, I mean, the actors are your easel, right? And you're the director. You have the paintbrush. You put the paint on the canvas where you want it to go. They're being paid to do that. There's so many directors, it feels like, oftentimes when they get some big star on their set, they're either scared to direct this person, or perhaps the actor is of such an ego that they won't be directed. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're the director, you have to fight to get the actors to do what you want and stick to the script and get out and get a don't let the actors become the directors. I'm just speaking sort of as a movie fan, not as an expert in the industry or anything. But anyway, Brett, I want a remake of The Mist or a second season of the TV show. The Mist with Thomas Jane. Man, for those of you that haven't seen it, you want to talk about? I was talking about this on the Quantum Terror, Quantum Dread live stream / podcast with Christopher Cooksey a couple weeks ago, talking about Lovecraft. You want to talk about the idea of a personal apocalypse? The last scene in The Mist with Thomas Jane. Oh man. Yeah, I was saying before, like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers 56, where they had to like tack on a sort of quasi-happy ending to avoid the ending being too downbeat. Oh man, they didn't do that with The Mist. Well, won't tell you too much else, but man, yeah. And originally, apparently the appropriate way to watch that movie is in black and white. And I think the Blu-ray version allows you to watch The Mist in black and white. That's how the director intended it to be. He wanted it to be a black and white movie. I haven't seen that version yet. I can imagine it. But Spoonie the Rebel, oi, nerds! Oi! That's everybody's exclamation now after watching the last couple episodes of The Boys. Oi! Let's see. How do you feel if you accidentally leave your phone at home? Probably not as bad as my sister. Like I'm not attached to it at the hip. I think I've told this story before. There was a brief time when my sister was living with me after she got out of college, and she was, working kind of, entry-level jobs and trying to save up some money and that kind of thing. And she was, we're sitting around one day, and she's in the kitchen making something, and I'm just in the living room, and she's been complaining about how little money she has to spend, that everything is like, being eaten up by bills. And I said, what's your one biggest expense right now? Your non sort of like biggest expense. Because right at that time I wasn't charging her rent or anything because I was letting her save up some money. And she's like, oh, probably my cell phone bill. And I said, well, how much is your cell phone bill? And at the time, this is many years ago now, so, adjusted for inflation, you figure it out. But at the time, she said it was like $75 a month. And I said, well, why don't you, cut off the cell phone for a couple of months and save up some money? And at that suggestion, I'm watching her from the living room as she's in the kitchen. She's standing in front of the stove, and I am not kidding when I say, imagine someone's brain has had a 404 error. Like her whole body stiffened and her hands went up and she kind of shook like she was having a little bit of a seizure. And she was like, no. And I thought I was looking, I swear to God, to this day I say, I thought I was looking at a heroin addict who I just took their stash from. It was that visceral. And yeah, I don't have that reaction if I leave my phone at home. I have a feeling that to this day, my sister probably would have that similar reaction if she forgot her phone at home. I just have a feeling. Let's see. Keeper Dam. If I accidentally leave my phone at home before going to work, and not so good because I'd miss streams. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. And I don't, just as a note, I don't like judge anyone who has a smartphone or who is, has worked a smartphone into their regular course of daily business or anything. It's just something that I'm trying to avoid for my own sense of sanity or whatever. But yeah, no, I can imagine if you've and understandably so. There's a lot of convenience. There's a lot of ease of use with smartphones these days that provide benefits that I too would probably be very happy with if I had one. But either way, yeah, no, I can imagine if you've built everything around, you've got important information on there. It's the way that you communicate with people or keep tabs on things. I can imagine, not having it on you could be stressful. So, let's see, what else we got. What's the most refreshing thing on a hot summer day? Air conditioning. I cannot stand heat. I'm not like Ranting Monkey. Ranting Monkey is part lizard. I always said if we could find a heat lamp large enough and a hot rock big enough to hold him, he'd be a happy guy because he just loves the heat. I am not made for heat. I'm a creature of rain and fog ultimately, and yeah. So most refreshing thing for me, if I can swing it, air conditioning. Let's see what else we got. Corey Suzuki, I went to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert past night. Super fun. Lynyrd Skynyrd. Are they still around? I thought, wait, am I mixing up my bands or something? Wait, didn't part of them like crash in a plane or something? Or am I thinking of I must be thinking of a different band. I must be, right? Obviously, there's a band called Lynyrd Skynyrd, but I don't know. These things. I was thinking, wasn't that Con Air? Was Sweet Home Alabama Lynyrd Skynyrd, or am I just completely off base? I'm terrible at this stuff sometimes. You let me know. Well, there's one original member left. Okay, yeah. So was that the band that went down in a plane crash? I think, maybe. Scrappy, yes, they did. Okay, all right. Because going back to movies and everything, yeah, Con Air, where they're all dancing around to Sweet Home Alabama, and I think it was Steve Buscemi. Somebody there, he was commenting on the fact it's like, a bunch of convicts on a plane dancing around to a song made by a band who died in a plane crash. I'm paraphrasing, but it was he said something like define irony, I think it was, and then he went on with that. Oh boy. Con Air is a perfect movie, says a Scattered Athlete. For what it is, yes. For what it is, yes. There are some movies that are perfect for what they are, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Tremors, and there's so many others. But yeah, there are some movies out there that are just perfectly done. There's no loose ends. Everything has a payoff. Con Air is one of those. For an action film, as goofy as it is, yes, it is perfect. It is perfect as it is. Let's see, Dylan Farnham. When I lived in Jacksonville, it felt like everyone was related to a member of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Are you making some kind of comment about Jacksonville culture? I don't know. What is your favorite sports team? My favorite sports team? Oh, God, do I have a favorite sport? I don't think I have a favorite sports team. I don't think I do. No, I really don't. Every time I think of sports teams, I come back to like movies or curling something. Curling is a sport I love to watch. I don't know that I have a favorite team, Yeah, whichever curling team has the women yipping at each other as they brush the ice all the way down to the end of the lane. Yeah, whichever team that is, that's my favorite sports team. Sure, why not? Let's see, what's next? What was your least favorite job that you've ever had? Oh, my least favorite job. Well, I don't know if it was my least favorite job, but it was the job that had me put into my least favorite situation. There was a time where I was early on in my quote-unquote career, I had to work collections. And this is, you call people up and say, you owe money, and can you give me a credit card? Or at the time, we called them phone checks. This is how long ago this was. And that is a terrible job. Not terrible in the sense that you don't make a living at it. You can make a living. But there are some instances and some calls where you just feel like absolute scum. And the worst one was, every day you're given. I don't know if this is terminology in the rest of the industry. We were given what was called a split. This is your split of the outstanding accounts, and here's all the numbers. And so call them up, and this is how much they owe, and then get their information. And so I call this one lady up, and she owed something. I mean, even in today's dollars, it's relatively minuscule. It's like $80 or something, whatever it was. I call her up and I say, "Hi, this is Scribe from Collectco or whatever, and I'm calling on your payment, etc." And this lady's like, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but," and whenever you hear like "I'm sorry, but," you're thinking, okay, they're going to dodge this and everything else. But she started talking about how that 2 months ago, her husband was in a car accident and had both of his legs broken, and had been dealing with that. And then she said, and just yesterday, my 17-year-old daughter found a lump in her breast. And I'm sitting there going, on the one hand, I've been so jaded at this point in the course of this job that the sob story doesn't have the same effect on me as it would have had maybe before I'd had that job. But there's still enough humanity in me. I'm like, oh guys, I'm so sorry. But you're always like half thinking, okay, this is all made up. And so anyway, so I'm on the phone with this lady for like almost 10 minutes where she's just like laying out all her sorrows. I feel like I'm a bartender or something. And, when you're working in collections, literally time is money. So I'm coming up on like, I need to move on to my next call if I'm not going to get this one paid off. And then right in the middle of continuing her story, she just stops and says, I'm sorry. You don't need to be hearing this. Will you take a credit card? And my heart just drops because she wasn't trying to dodge. She just needed somebody to talk to. And this is how dire a situation she was in, that she spilled her guts out to a collection guy. And I felt so terrible. I felt so terrible. She still paid her bill and did all the responsible stuff and everything. But afterwards, what I felt terrible about was doubting her. All right, thinking that I was being played. Even in that, relatively inconsequential interaction, I felt terrible. Not only that I thought that she was playing me, but also I felt terrible at just how far I'd fallen in a way in my own sort of compassion, to the point where somebody's sob story, first that I classified as a sob story, right? Anyway, yeah. So there were moments like that in the course of being a collections guy that just really challenged my sense of humanity, both towards myself and just and ironclad contracts. There's plenty of other stories I could tell. But anyway, what's the most refreshing thing on a hot summer? We already did this. What? Were you the class clown or the teacher's pet? I was probably more the teacher's pet territory. I wasn't much of an act out all that much. A standard athlete, not just any collection guy, Scribe. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not just any. Repo Man Scribes is thrashy. No. My dad was a repo man at one point, apparently. I didn't find this out until years later in my life. There's a lot. It's always interesting when your parents are still mysterious to you in a way, even when you're an adult. I'm still finding things out about my parents that I never knew. Like, oh yeah. At one point, my mother was approached to become a wing walker. Someone who would walk out on the wings of a biplane during an air show. This is long ago in the dark old ages of God knows when, 1950 something or other. And my father was a repo man for a brief time. He had to go to people's houses and steal their cars back for the bank. Like, what? Amongst everything else my father did. Yeah, he was a repo man. Yeah. Scrappy, I had to give receipts. The worst one was $21 on a photocopier found out, which you have to bring them back to watch you give the receipt. They had asked for $5 monthly payments, which was cool. Receipts for collections? Maybe I'm missing some context there. Let's see. Old Guy Gamer, I was in detention, neither a pet or clown. Well, there you go. Better be Switzerland, I suppose, than anything else. If you opened a restaurant, what kind of food would you serve? Oh, Satsu's food. I wouldn't risk trying to serve any kind of food that I would either make or think that I like that anybody else would. I would just like hire Satsu and to be my main cook, you know, or his apprentice, because I know he's going to be running his own restaurant sooner or later. So I'd say, Satsu, send me your star apprentice. Yeah, whoever you think is a number one king of the hill, send them my way. You know, now that I know somebody who's like becoming a master chef, that's probably my first. You know, like why risk my dumbass trying to set a menu? Find somebody who knows what they're doing. Let's see, what's next? What was the last thing you purchased? I think I was with my sister yesterday for shopping. I think it was a new tube of toothpaste. Yeah, really exciting stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to ask me? I'm probably going to wrap this up here pretty soon. Just as a little bit of a catharsis, a little bit of a stream of consciousness, if nothing else. Let's see. Emperor W.R. Costin, is the host of this stream evil like Scribe or in a manner that is different from Scribe? Well, I suppose in the sense that I didn't have a plan for this one versus nearly every other Sunday stream. I guess I'm evil in that way, more chaotic, you know, less structured. So chaotic neutral maybe, rather than lawful neutral as I usually am. Am I lawful neutral? I don't know. Where do I fall on the D&D morality scale? You tell me. Let's see. Time freezes for everyone but you for one day. What do you do? I want to plead the fifth on that one. How have TV shows changed over the years? Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah, well, going from non-episodic to one long storyline, yeah, that's probably those Marvel shows, Daredevil aside, those Marvel shows should have been so much better. Like Jessica Jones, you have a private eye, right? You have a private eye character. Like, you ever watch? Probably not, but you ever watch the old Mike Hammer mysteries? You know, Stacy Keach, you know, or hell, any mystery show, any mystery show where it's like the episode has a self-contained mystery, a self-contained arc. Longmire. Okay, here's a show. If you haven't seen this show, you can find it on Netflix right now. It's great. Look up Longmire. Longmire is great because it is a throwback to those old PI episodic shows where it's like, yeah, there's an ongoing arc. There are other things happening in the background, but each episode has its own story. You can do both. You can have a storyline that stretches over a season, but have each episode be a self-contained adventure. They didn't do that with the Marvel shows. Everything had to be just the latest entry in this one long storyline, and everything was a cliffhanger. And so, yeah, I think the fact that TV shows can be binged now, it's that Ian Malcolm kind of sensation from Jurassic Park. Just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that you should. Just because you can create a show that can be binged, and there's no week-long break in between an episodic network show, doesn't mean you should create a show that doesn't have to have any breaks, like it's a 9-hour long movie or something. I think you'd be better off having more episodic stuff, even in a show that can be binged. This goes for Stranger Things. The problem with Stranger Things is that you can't have it episodic because it's not structured that way. It's just a long, ongoing storyline. But if you can't make the episodes episodic in a way, make the show episodic, which each season being its own thing, instead of trying to drag out and beat a dead horse every time. Can you imagine if Stranger Things went back and forth between what's happening in Hawkins and then some adventure happening in another town, and in between they're working on making a really, really good script and story for those characters in Hawkins? They can take a break from the kids in Hawkins and do something else for a while and think about it. They're not rushing to make the next thing. No pun intended. Anyway. Let's see. They're making a remake of Blue's Clues where he works for SVU. These days, I could believe it. I could believe it. What foods do you absolutely hate? Oh, absolutely hate. It's all very stereotypical. Lima beans, like lima beans mixed in with other stuff, it's fine, but by themselves or anything, no. Asparagus. I really don't like asparagus. I really don't. I mean, again, if it's mixed in with other stuff, all right. But asparagus, no. And cilantro. Okay, cilantro. Now, here's the thing about cilantro. I don't hate it because I hate it. I hate it because my body cannot process it. I'm one of those few people out there. I mean, I don't even know what the percentage is. I'm not exactly alone in the world. But my mother, myself, a couple people I've met, cilantro makes food taste like burning soap. Like that was my description of it. Like if I had to describe to somebody what cilantro did to food, I said it made it taste like burning soap. And then one day, completely out of the blue, I'm at work and I'm talking to a coworker, and somehow we got on this subject, and I brought up the fact that I'm apparently allergic to cilantro. And she said, I am too. It makes food taste like burning soap. And I couldn't believe it. Was like one of those things. It's like, did somebody write this? Am I in a stranger than fiction kind of a situation now? Right, where like somebody's writing my own story, that somebody would say the exact same descriptor of the experience as I did. So yeah, cilantro I hate because I am forced to hate it. You know, maybe I'd like it if it didn't make everything taste terrible. So, let's see. Johnny Helget, I love Mike Hammer. I love Stacy Keach. Now, Mike Hammer. The show, it became like, as it went on, it was obvious the writers were going Looney Tunes because some of those episodes were basically cartoons, and Mike Hammer was not a hard-boiled PI when he was like riding around on a horse or something. It was, oh god, but yeah, Mike Hammer, Stacy Keach, that'll like really hard-boiled, square-jawed. You know, the fedora hat and the mysterious dame coming in the office, all that stuff. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. Oh, actually, while I have everybody here, and I think I might wrap up on this just to punctuate it. There is a mystery I've been trying to solve for years. Okay, and the likelihood that any of you will have any idea what I'm talking about is probably pretty slim to none. But so way back in the 80s, and I've been trying off and on for years to try to figure this out. Way back in the 80s. If all you old timers may recall, there was something called like the Monday Night Movie or something, right? It was that sort of 2 hour, usually it was probably about like 90 minutes plus commercials, TV movie. And there were dozens and hundreds of these things over years on any of the three networks. And so this show, whatever it was, had to be on either ABC, NBC, or CBS. I think it was CBS. I can't say. Anyway. There was a TV movie, I don't know what night it was, whatever, that this was the basic plot as I remember it. It had something to do with a guy who was, you know, Moon Knight, like he gets shot and he kind of was dying at the foot of the statue of Khonshu, right? And then he Khonshu sort of resurrects him. It was that, except that this story was something to the effect of this guy is dying, and then he is resurrected in some way, or he's at least kept alive by being possessed by the spirits of, and it was something like Zorro and Robin Hood and something else. It was like these three sort of literary / fictional heroes possessed this guy and brought him back to life so that he could save the day and be a hero and everything else. And all I remember visually of this is this guy, the hero of the show, like he was laid out on like an actual altar or something, and then these really cheesy special effects at the time in the 80s, like mystical, misty ghost type things were swirling around him, and then he came back to life and was suddenly a swashbuckling hero guy. Two things. I just want to know that I'm not making this up in my own head, that I'm not like having some sort of Mandela effect thing and just remembering this when it didn't exist. That's the first thing I want to be assured of. And the second thing, I just love to find out what was the title of this thing and whatever information else I could find on it. I have not been able to find this thing in years. And so if anybody has any notion of what I'm talking about, or maybe has some magical Google foo they can put out there to find out what this was, I'd appreciate it, because it's one of those things stuck in my head for years. I'm pretty sure it existed. It's almost like that song that I'm forgetting who it was. You might be in the room right now. I apologize. There's a song that was stuck in my head for years that I could never remember the title of. I could never find. And then one of you guys on Twitter one day just found it as I asked if somebody could help me with this, because I remembered very few lines of it. And it was a song called by Submarine. Way Out West by Submarine, thankfully. And anyway, if anybody has any idea, I'd appreciate it. Something like that. Anyway, guys, with that little bit, Jaeger Pony, I swear, if I click on this, okay. Okay, so it's not a link to the thing, it's a link to CBS TV movies. Okay, all right, well, I mean, that's better than having nothing at all. I guess I'll have to scroll through that. I thought for a second you just like had the answer right there. I'd be like, dude. Okay, I will take a look at that. Okay, yeah, I didn't see your comment before the link. I just saw the link and I was like, no way you found it that quick. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you for joining me for this J-Random stream of questions, comments, stream of consciousness, movie trivia, and everything else. If you have other questions for me by any chance, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get to them as I can. Also, remember that tomorrow, Monday, July 4th, at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Scottish time, I'll be joined on this channel by my friend Tailed Feature, as he and I discuss the concept of independence, both referring to the holiday in my country and the prospect of such a thing happening to his country. So we'll hopefully have an interesting conversation tomorrow about that, and I look forward to you guys joining me if you can. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoy your 4th of July holiday, have plenty of barbecue, use your fireworks safely, and if you're not in the United States and you don't have tomorrow off, well, if you have the opportunity to hang out with Tailed and I, it'd be cool. But otherwise, have a good rest of your Sunday, everybody. Have a good Monday. Let me turn off this music because I figure it'll play if I don't stop it now as I'm going in the outro. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. And of course, as I forget too often, please take a look at the top of the chat box to the GoFundMes linked for our friends Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you have a couple of bucks to spare, their friends, and their family would certainly appreciate it. With that, everyone, I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.